Welcome to another episode of Will Chow's Personal Development Podcast. In this episode, I want to go into detail about how you can reduce or eliminate social media distraction and other forms of distraction so you can be more productive and successful in your career and life. This is a question and problem that I have been asked a couple times by my readers and listeners from my blog and podcast. And I even created a Udemy course with a module in that course on the topic. So let's just get started, and let me just explain in detail. I'm holding nothing back on how I've managed to eliminate this based on a lot of research on productivity and testing and trying different things out and recommending this to others and picking the brains of other people and seeing what they think and what they do. So the first tip I have to give you is more so about understanding the benefits to doing so. Now, some of you already know how important this is, but others really understand it even more, which will give you more motivation to quit doing this. So the first big thing comes from this guy's like a 7-time Ironman runner and one of the top real estate agents and trainers in the entire Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. I was able to be part of a podcast production that interviewed this man remotely, and I was part of the film crew. And one of the questions that was asked of this guy he was like, how was he able to do this while still selling billions of dollars, that's billions with a B, billions of dollars worth of real estate for his company? And his answer was simple. He simply said, well, I just make the time for it. And you look at the average person, they spend 4 to 5 hours a day on social media. So you simply eliminate what's not going towards your goals and spend the time doing what is towards your goals. And that's a very scary but truthful fact. And I've met a lot of average people who, when you mention this statistic or you ask them or suggest that they track their social media or TV watching time, their response is, oh, I don't want to do that. That's too scary. I don't even want to look at that number. And this is a bad approach. This is a sad approach, and you cannot let your shame or your guilt or your fear prevent you from improving your life. Because what's the alternative? You're going to shy away from looking at how much time you spend and just keep doing the same thing and living the same life you have been living and getting the same results. Now, that's fine if you have no motivation at all to improve your life or, improve the results in your life. But you're probably not like most people, and you probably want to succeed or improve your life, which is why you're listening to this. So if you're that type of person, you have to look at it in a more positive way, a more constructive way. By looking at the time you are wasting and tracking it, you can actually improve it. If you don't measure it, you can't manage it, you can't improve it. So look at it as a positive. Hey, if I find out all this time I'm wasting, I can look at it as an opportunity to cut back. And that doesn't mean you have to immediately cut all of it back and suffer. It means maybe, you know what, you can cut back 10%. If you find out you're wasting 4 hours a day, that's an opportunity. That means you can cut back maybe even just 30 minutes less a day, and that's 30 minutes a day you get back. That's a few hours a week you're getting back, and hundreds of hours a year you're getting back. So don't think of it as a negative, and actually track your time. So how can you do this? Well, there's free tools on your phone, on the computer. There's apps that do this. If you simply search something like screen time tracker browser extension, there's extensions for Google Chrome that are free that you simply install with a click, and then they'll track your time and split it out into pie charts and tell you how much of it's spent on social media, how much of it's spent on office products, and so forth. If you use an iPhone, the iOS has a free feature called Screen Time, which you can get to by just going to your settings and scrolling down a bit, and it's right under downtime, which is another useful app which blocks your social media apps. So screen time tracks it and breaks it down into a pie chart to figure out what time you're spending. And then downtime lets you block certain sites or apps after a set amount of time of your choice. So I have both of these installed, and they're not miracle cures because with downtime you can always just hit the ignore button and then continue using it. But it is a good warning. And then with screen time, it's just a good benchmark. So this last week, I found out I spent an average of 2 hours and 13 minutes a day on my phone. Now, the biggest culprit was Instagram. I spent 3.5 hours in the last 7 days on Instagram. Now, that's another thing. You don't have to be perfect. That might seem like a big numbers, but I'm pretty proud of that because I cut it down from used to be 3 to 4 hours a day. And when you dive into the pie chart, you discover that, well, 3 hours were Instagram, but 2.5 was Waze. Waze is a driving navigation app. So that really wasn't me spending time on the phone. It was me driving somewhere. So that doesn't count. So that lowers my average even more. So as you can kind of see, it's not as bad as you think. And it's also about forgiving yourself and realizing you don't have to be perfect. I think the biggest culprit of failing to get better is thinking it has to be all or nothing. So some people, rather than seeing going down from 4 to 2 hours, would beat themselves up because it's not 0 hours. I celebrate those small wins, and that's how I build momentum to improve even better. Now, the Instagram time, I rationalize some of that as building my content platform and influencer platform. So that's partially true, but also sometimes it's kind of an excuse to go on there a bit more. So you have to be cognizant of that. That brings me to my next tip, which is you have to be aware of the addictive factor of these social media apps. Therefore, sometimes it's best just to uninstall them, delete them, or realize that you can't use the excuse that, oh, I'm building my influencer platform on there. Now, when I get on there, I get on, I post, I respond to comments, and then I leave. I try my best not to even glance at the homepage because that sucks me in because I follow these people and they have good content and it sucks me in. So I just have to be wary of that, and that reduces my time because once you're sucked in, these algorithms and these platforms have spent millions of dollars and done all the split testing to find the most optimal way of triggering your emotions and psychology to get you addicted and suck you in, so that what you intended to be 5 minutes turns out to be half an hour of your time. YouTube and Instagram and Facebook are the best at it, so be very careful of those. I know for a fact that after using these for a lot of time, that if I don't use them for a week or a month, it makes no difference. I usually go there for entertainment's sake, and a lot of it's just out of boredom, like because I have nothing better to do, and it really doesn't add any value. It's just kind of like about me snooping on other people, and usually it just sometimes makes you a bit jealous. So another tip is to identify the utility you get out of it, and then just go on there for that. That way you're not just kind of meandering and doing whatever you want on there, which I used to do. I used to go on there for a bunch of stuff. And I would do it for things that were utilitarian, but then I would get sucked into other things. So just being more intentional with that. For example, for me, I found that the most use I get out of Facebook is in finding cool events I can go to make friends and make my life more interesting, and buy or sell stuff off the Facebook marketplace. And those things really only take no more than 10 minutes a day, maybe even 20 minutes a week. So when I go on Facebook, or when I'm deciding whether to open up Facebook on my computer or mobile device, that's what I look at. And if I decide, well, I've already done that yesterday, or I don't have time for any events, or I don't have anything to buy or sell, then I don't go on there. I don't get tempted by those other things like, oh, what if I can check on these people and see what they're doing? Or what if I'm bored and I want to check out on these people and snoop? My answer is no. And I know from a lot of previous experience that when I do that, it doesn't lead to any real value there or happiness. So I prevent myself from going on there. It's not perfect. Sometimes I still get tempted. And again, bring it back to that point about not being a perfectionist, forgiving yourself. That's what gives you more motivation. I posted an article a couple months ago that talks about procrastination. I hadn't posted about procrastination in a while, but it's a hot topic on my site, so I posted about it. And I cited a research study that was recently done that proved that one of the keys to defeating procrastination is self forgiveness. Two groups were tested, and the group that forgave themselves for blunders or mistakes or relapses where they ended up procrastinating ended up feeling better about themselves and procrastinating less than the group that beated themselves up each time they procrastinated. So the same thing applies to productivity and distraction. Now, quite frankly, you know, you have to go back to just writing it down. Write down things so you can crystallize them in your mind. Uh, for starters, as I mentioned, the utility you're getting out of them needs to be crystallized. So write it down, even type it out if you really don't want to write it down. But writing it down burns it into your mind. What are you getting out of each platform? Because it's different for each platform. Write it down in detail. So for Instagram, it might be about well, you get inspiration from certain influencers, or it might be that you and be honest with yourself. No one else is going to read this, so you can be honest. Maybe it's, oh, there's a lot of hot girls on there, and I just enjoy looking at them, and maybe it gives me a little inspiration about maybe getting a girl of that quality one day. Write it down, even if it's embarrassing. No one else is seeing it. It's a judgment-free zone. And then, for YouTube, it might be, for instance, that you get entertainment value from there and informational value. It's the best place to go to learn about how to get more fit, or how to improve your style, or how to make more money. But you also get a lot of entertainment there from the comedy channels, or the specific prank channels. So write those down, and then figure out how much you can allocate to them, what percentage of it is actually worth the utility, and figure out what is just a waste of time on there. When do you waste the most time? Maybe you find out that, okay, I do get a lot of value from these things from Instagram, but then I also get sucked into these travel Instagram profiles, and they just make me jealous and angry. Well then, there you have it. If you are going to find yourself on them, unfollow those people, even block them. Do what you need to do to eliminate what's distracting you by pretty much categorizing and compartmentalizing the value. You can eliminate the distraction even more. Finally, there are physical ways that you can break this out with your lifestyle and environment. There's more tools that can do this. Very simple tools to install on your phone and as apps or your browser extension, and these literally straight up block the website or app that you want. With iPhone, again, you have a built-in tool in your settings called downtime that you can use, and you can set. There's two main ways you can do it. With downtime, if you're using that one, you can just set it for a certain amount of time per day you're allowed to use certain apps or tools or websites. With Chrome extensions, another way you can do it is, rather than a time limit, you start the timer, and when the timer is in action for whatever amount of time you want it to be, you cannot use certain sites or apps. I use a combination of them for work. I use the timer thing. It's based off the Pomodoro technique, where you do nothing but focus work for 25 minutes, and then you take 5 minutes off, and then you repeat that set for 4 times, and then you get a longer break. I use that for work so that I can't even go on to distracting websites. But then when I'm on my phone, I use downtime, where it just limits the amount of time. So it's like, yeah, you can go on these fun sites or fun apps, but then you're blocked after a certain amount of time. I think it works well this way because when you're on your computer, you're more likely doing intense work. So then it's the start of your day, you're doing the intense work, then you just want to block it completely. But then when you're on your phone, you're probably at a moment in time where you're less distracted, and then you can play, but only for a certain amount of time. Now going on to the physical realm, the physical world, lock away your phone. And at the start of the day, don't even look at the phone. Don't look at your email, because that's other people's problems in your face. And they're usually not the most important problems. And you don't want to get distracted and pull it off at the start of your day, where you have the most willpower and decision making energy, towards minor, less impactful tasks. So pick out the most important things you want to do at the start of the day. Do those. Put your phone away. Put it on Do Not Disturb. Put it in your backpack. Put it out of sight, out of mind, in your drawer, and get to work. Turn off calls and just get to work, because that's going to be most important. Now, what else can you do on your physical lifestyle? Well, you can literally schedule in things that you have to do that are fun, that are productive or engaging, that eliminate the obligation or urge to do something out of boredom. So I've signed up for sports leagues. I'm doing a sailing league right now as I'm recording this, once every week. So what that means is that I can't waste time on social media, because at 5 o'clock every day for the next 3 hours, I have to drive to this place and sail on a boat with other people. I've never sailed a boat before, and it's been so really fun so far. And it lets me meet new people, which is one of my objectives in life, and make friends. And it prevents me from going on my phone. I can't even use my phone on there, because it's in the water. People have dropped their phones in the water. In fact, one person dropped their phone, water, sunglasses in the water, phone, wallet, sunglasses in the water last time. So that's one way, and it was quite affordable too. It was like $200 for like 6 weeks of sailing. There's other sports leagues. You could do kickball, same deal more or less. And if you don't want to do outdoor stuff, there's improv classes. There's CrossFit classes. There's spin classes where you get on a bike and cycle. There's yoga classes. There's dance classes. There's all sorts of stuff you can do that get you out of the house, prevent you from being distracted. Get another job. There's fun jobs out there. You can be a sailboat teacher. You can be an escape room conductor. You can go out and just flip stuff for fun. Find what's at least partially fun. You don't have to be overjoyed by it, but find stuff that you can do outside and do it. Volunteer. And that gets you active and moving and using your hands and body in a place where you can't use your phone. If you're doing a clean and jerk or snatch overhead for a CrossFit class, you can't use your phone because your hands are in the way. So, get out there. It doesn't have to be perfect, because nothing ever is perfect. Sure, like even in CrossFit, like in between class, I guess you could, or in between your workouts, you could look at your phone, I guess. But I just lock my phone in my car, and then when I walk into the gym, I can't use it. It's just become such a habit at this point. I can't help it. And what type of person has their phone in gym class anyways? At least in CrossFit class, no one does. I mean, some people even have gym shorts with no pockets, which prevent you from even holding your phone. So there are intentional ways where you can prevent yourself from the phone. So the phone's a big culprit. So there's all sorts of ideas you can use that I suggest you take action on now, so that you just don't, say, oh, that's a cool idea, and then forget and never do it. Right as you're listening to this podcast, start implementing some of these things. So the phone's a big culprit, and then your computer or laptop's the second, or really the only other big culprit. So what can you do there? Well, there's plenty of things you can do other than those social media blockers I just mentioned. Doesn't have to be complicated. It could simply be a matter of lifestyle, as mentioned. Same type of deal. If you're going to a event, like I went to a boomerang throwing event recently, then you forcibly cannot be on the computer and get distracted by social media. But let's say you have to work, and like you have to get a homework assignment done, or you just have to get actual work done on a computer, and it's tempting and it's right there in your face to get on social media. I like to kind of counter one evil with a lesser evil. So when I throw on a podcast or a comedy station on Pandora, it gets me in an upbeat mood. It's not as distracting or horrible as social media, but it gets me so engaged that there's no way I can really flip on to Instagram or Facebook while I'm doing this, because I'm engaged in the podcast, or I'm engaged in this like crime drama podcast, or stand-up comedian. And guess what? Now I don't have to worry about this stuff because I'm focused on this thing. So there's other alternatives to YouTube that can get you in that mindset. Like Castbox is another free podcast player device that you can um, play on your computer. There's all these options, and they're less distracting and less addictive, and they get you engaged so that you forcibly can't go on social media. So hopefully these tips helped. Again, really take action on these, otherwise it'll be useless. I challenge you to take one of these ideas mentioned and set them up now, not tomorrow, not in 5 minutes, now. Okay, maybe if you're in your car and you're driving, you can't do it now, but maybe you can do some of it now. I don't know, maybe it's blocking your phone in the trunk, who knows. But set it up now, set it up in 5 minutes as soon as possible. Otherwise, it's just ideas, it's just theory. Knowledge is not power unless you put it into action. Go out there and intentionally buy some gym shorts without a phone so that you have to leave your phone in the car. Do some stuff to set up your lifestyle for success, and you will be successful. Thanks for listening. Check out willyoulaugh.com if you want more tips from my blog. Join my email newsletter on there for more cool stuff. And then hopefully you like this podcast. Leave a review, subscribe to it. Reach out if you have any questions, problems, concerns. Thanks so much. I appreciate your time. Peace.